Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast Little Seeds of Knowledge, the podcast which dives into topics relating to science, technology, business, or social issues with each episode. We hope that you are able to plant your own little seed of knowledge and watch it grow as you further explore each topic explained in each episode. I'm your host, Riddhi, and I'm so grateful that you were able to tune in for this week's episode. I hope you enjoy it. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another podcast episode here at Little Seeds of Knowledge. Hi, it's me, Riddhi. I hope you are all doing well, and I hope you've been having a good week. And I just hope everyone is doing well. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Little Seeds of Knowledge, and I'm forever grateful for your support. And this week, I put up an episode pretty late. I put it up on Thursday instead of Sunday. But if you do still want to check it out, you can go check out was supposed to be last week's episode and became this week's episode. You can go check it out. I basically talked about burnout, and I talked about finding inspiration and what burnout means to me and how I deal with it. So yeah, if that's something that you're interested in listening to, you can go and check it out as well. This week, we're going to be talking about tech. As you can see by the title of this podcast episode, it's called Let's Talk Some Tech, and that is exactly what we are going to be doing. But before we actually get into it, we have to do our word of the week, song of the week, and seed for the upcoming week. So first, the word of the week. What is it for me? This week, I would describe it. It's been really chill. To be honest, there's not much been going on in my life. It's just been a really mellow, chill, calm. There's not that much that has been going on, nothing dramatic or nothing big. I am starting college in 2 weeks, so I'm super excited about that. I got my schedule for my classes, and so that was probably the biggest thing that happened this week. I got my schedule for my classes, so I know exactly what classes I'm taking. I'm kind of just excited for college to start. This week I did a lot of just really chill activities. I did a couple of trainings for college. I worked obviously on the podcast and the blog. But yeah, it's just been really chill, and I hope to get back into the swing of things and start working again, because I did take some time off this week and give myself some room to breathe, which I'm really glad I did, because now I feel motivated and ready to just get out there and work and learn and just continue to grow. So it's just been chill, and I'm excited to see what this next week brings. For the song of the week, I don't really have a particular song, but there is this one specific type of playlist I've been listening to. It's on Spotify. It's called TikTok Hits. And so I've been listening to this playlist literally nonstop this entire week. Every time I was putting on music, I would go to this specific playlist. Any song from that would be ideal. I really especially liked Backyard Boys. That was a really good song, and I think it was number one on that playlist for a while. So yeah, that playlist and TikTok music itself is just great. As you know, TikTok gives rise to a lot of new artists that come with it, and a lot of people find popularity through their sounds through their songs being used as sounds on TikTok. And so I discovered a new music taste. I realized I kind of like indie / alternative pop a little bit, and so I created a new playlist out of that. And so that was kind of just my favorite playlist that I've been listening to, so not a particular song. I will say, I also picked up 2 new artists this week that I just really love their music, and it's Megan Thee Stallion and Saweetie. I normally don't listen to a lot of hip-hop. If you listen to my music episode, then you would know that. I'm more of a pop type of girl. I like listening to just any basic pop music. But I picked up hip-hop this week, and I listened to Megan Thee Stallion and Saweetie's, their music. It's so good. They're both such powerful women, and their music, it just sticks with me, and their lyrics are done so well. So I really enjoyed their music. Their music makes me feel confident, sort of really bad. I feel badass, but so I just enjoy their music so much. And they're also 2 artists I found this week, and I made playlists off of their music as well. So that's kind of been my experience with music as well. Another thing that I would say happened this week that was pretty much really reflective for me, and it kind of has to do with the seed. of this week I would say is confidence. I think this week I really figured out what confidence means to me, and I kind of just like reflected back on my struggle with it. I think I might end up doing a podcast episode about this, but basically I just look back and I don't know, I never felt my most confident self up until this week for quite a long time, and so I was really happy about that, and I was really happy with myself. Like, I was self-satisfied, and I started loving myself a lot more, so I just felt really confident this week, and I think that's just been really nice. And yeah, for the seed of next week, like I said, this episode is gonna be chill and low-key, so for next week I just want to have a nice week, like I want to be able to do pretty much everything. I want to be able to work out, I want to be able to spend time with family and friends, mostly family, because I'm still under like quarantine and like I'm still staying at home, but yeah, I just want to be able to spend time with my loved ones. I want to be able to work and learn something, whether it be Salesforce or Google Analytics or Python. Yeah, I just want like, a nice chill week. I want to be able to watch my favorite shows, finish the Umbrella Academy, which I've just started watching after Legend of Korra, and yeah, I just want to be able to do those things. And yeah, I mean, the Umbrella Academy, to be honest, I'm like 2 episodes in for the first season, so I can't really say like too much about it, but from what I've seen, it seemed like a pretty good show. I love how the fact that they have a pretty diverse cast as well. And yeah, it's kind of a gory show for me. I normally don't watch a lot of like quote unquote violent shows, a lot, but I think it has a really interesting plot, and the characters just seem very complex, and I like that. I like shows that, have complex characters and show characterization throughout a show, because for me, when I watch shows, my first thing is to be able to relate to a character, and so I feel like just the characters of Umbrella Academy, there's something that's not just surface level about them. They go a little bit deeper, and I kind of like the way it's paced, where, each season each episode, they reveal something a little bit new about our characters. Yeah, the only problem for me, I think it's a little too slow paced, but that's okay. It's fine with me. I still enjoy the show so far, so I will update you later what I think of the show and where I am with it. But that is all for the word of the week, song of the week, and pretty much just seed for the upcoming week. I think I rambled quite a lot, but without further ado, let's actually get into the episode for this week. So for this episode, like I said, I'm going to be talking about technology. I've always been interested in computers and software. So when I say technology, I'm going to be focusing more on the computers and the software parts. I'm really interested in like the products and how they work and impact society more than how they're created. So I feel like computers and just technology in general, like hardware and software, have 2 different parts. They have the creation part, where some people are really interested in the back end of it and how to create these technologies, which would be like the more computer science side, right? And then I feel like there's the side where you're more interested in the conceptual part of the product, where in terms of like how the product works, like what will its impact be. So you're not really involved with the creation, but you're more interested in like what it really brings to the table. And I think that's kind of like the more business side of tech, like of CS and just technology overall. It's kind of hard to describe, but I'm not a CS person, so I'm not really interested in creating something, but I am really interested in technology and learning about the new upcoming technologies and, like how they're going to impact the world and society and how they're going to change our lives pretty much. So I like to stay up to date on the tech world news a lot. And so I thought I would basically be discussing one of my interests, which is technology, on a podcast episode, because it's something that I like talking about, it's something I like reading about, so why don't I actually discuss it with other people and kind of just share sort of my opinions on it. And yeah, so for this one, I wanted to format it in such a way that I would not really be bashing any companies or any person. So the way I'm going to be talking about technologies is I'm pretty much going to be discussing the different parts and types of technology that you can find, whether it be a certain hardware or software, what they are, and kind of some examples, and if I can, like some advantages or disadvantages. So I'm going to be talking about the specific types of technology in general. I won't really be like name dropping any companies unless it's really necessary to talk about like an example of them, but I want to use this episode to kind of just spark a discussion about technology and what it really means, and kind of just discuss my interest in it. But I'm not here to like criticize anyone, because everyone has different opinions on it, so I'm just here to more really share about, what is existing and the facts that are there for technology right now. And yeah, so I'm going to be discussing social media, artificial intelligence, personal technology, so phones, computers, television, and the Internet of Things. So without further ado, let's get on to the first one, which is social media. So I've already done an episode, I think almost about like a month ago, where I discussed different social media platforms and I rank them based on their usage. But now I just want to discuss social media as a whole. Like, what does it mean? And, what are its advantages and disadvantages? And obviously, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with examples. So, social media, to me personally, is just any platform where, I can post pictures to share with my followers or friends. I can post funny videos. I can just make relatable content. And I think there's two different ways you can think of social media. First, some people just use it to, personally follow and interact with their creators. They really have no intention of building a platform. It's just something for them to kind of have fun with, and from time to time post a couple of pictures and, just interact with people that they call their friends. And then other people, like, with social media, they have some sort of intention of building a platform and creating something out of it and actually using it for good. And so they have the intention of going in and sort of like building a community, and such as whether it be like as for themselves and their lifestyle as an influencer, or whether it be for their business. I would say I'm kind of a mix of the two. I do use social media for obviously, building a platform, whether it be to this podcast or my blog or my YouTube channel. But then I also like to keep a little bit things private, and I do use it to interact with my friends and my family. So I feel like there's two different avenues you can kind of go on it. As we all know, there's a lot of different types of social media platforms. You have Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Pinterest, Snapchat, Tumblr. There's so many. And, what started out, I think for the most part, social media really started out in the early 2000s. What started out as a simple way to just connect with people is now $1 billion industry across many different platforms. You had MySpace in the beginning, and, as time goes on, different social media platforms evolve and they change up their way. And different ideas are brought to the table, so it's kind of cool to see how platforms have evolved and grown out, and how people's interests change in social media as time goes on, and how social media is used and leveraged in society. So I think it's kind of always cool to look at how much it's changed and what it means for society. And yeah, social media is just something that's super broad, and there's so many different parts to it that I can't just fit it all in one episode. But I think it's just like a good overview of what social media is like. Obviously, there are a couple of disadvantages and advantages when it comes to using social media. Obviously, I think the main advantages that people can say is that you can stay in touch with friends and family, right, from anywhere in the world. You can learn new things easily through following different channels or accounts. You can share important news or information, bring awareness to important issues. As we saw this year with the Black Lives Matter movement, social media was really heavily used in order to, talk about this issue, bring up important points, and it's still continuing being utilized and used to talk about important issues. You see people from all over kind of just like, bringing important issues to the table using their platforms, because that is right now the biggest way to connect with others. So yeah, I mean, that's one of the great advantages of social media. Is you can learn a lot of things by following different people. You can stay up to date with the current events and the news and the different situations going on in the world, which I think is a huge advantage. You can also grow a business or a community through social media. So for example, a lot of different businesses, they start out on Instagram, and then that's how they grow their way up through there. You have people who create podcasts like me, or they create blogs, and they start out on Instagram as well. And, they continuously post, and they eventually grow some sort of a platform. You can do the same with sort of any sort of social media. You can do that with TikTok. You can do that with Facebook. You can do that with YouTube. There's a lot of different platforms and avenues for you to be able to use. You can also find people with similar interests and connect with them, whether it be through a fandom, whether it be through a Facebook group. That's one of the great things about social media, is that you're able to find people who maybe people in your own life don't have the most similar interests with you, but when you utilize social media, you can find people with similar interests. So it's always fun to interact with them. And yeah, another advantage is you can obviously earn money. a lot of money through having a following on social media. I mean, it's no secret now that people who are social media influencers, they obviously earn a lot of money through brand deals, sponsorships, AdSense, whatever it may be. You can earn a lot of money and have a pretty stable income and living through doing social media. So those are obviously the advantages. Some of the disadvantages is obviously the way that you use it. Sometimes you can have too much screen time, which is not the best for your health. For some people, or for most people, it can take a toll on their mental health because of, the people they may be following, the toxicity that comes with it, the hate, and yeah, just the different discussions. You can obviously, social media can easily distract people from their actual priorities, right? Let's say that you're just working and then you get a text message from a friend, so then you go and see the text message, but then you see another notification from another social media platform, so then you go and you sit and you scroll there, and before you know, you've spent 30 minutes on your phone and you've been completely distracted from your actual work that you were initially doing. So it can obviously be a distraction. I've had to deal with this a lot, so I'm speaking for experience. Social media can sometimes bring out our insecurities, and it can just make us feel like, I don't know, like we compare ourselves a lot to people online that we follow. And, there are different ways, different people get affected in different ways, so I'm not speaking for everyone, but that is like a part of using social media is you do get insecure, you do compare yourself, and you look at others and you compare yourself to them. Some people who use it for, let's say, to actually make a career off of it, they look at just numbers, and that can obviously affect them. Sometimes the wrong people have the wrong platform, and instead of influencing in a positive way, they can influence in a negative way. There's also misinformation with spreads on social media, with the power of resharing, retweeting, reposting, whatever. Sometimes information spreads so fast, and sometimes the wrong information spreads. So for example, sometimes, I don't know, I see on social media trending that this celebrity has died when in fact they are not. They're still very much alive, and they have to come out and they have to say that. And so when people are feeling sad and then they find out that this is not real, this person is still alive, obviously, it really hurts. So social media can also be used for misinformation, which is a big thing. But yeah, as much as there are advantages, there's also going to be disadvantages, just two sides. But I think the best way is to kind of learn how to balance between the two sides and utilize their platforms to their best. Follow people who, really truly inspire you. Cut out toxicity from social media. Obviously, it's easier said than done. It takes time. It takes a lot of realization. You have to take breaks for yourself as well. So yeah, there's just a lot of different parts of it, but social media is a very upcoming type of software technology that I'm really interested in and how it impacts society, and there's a lot of different ways. And yeah, I mean, that's one of the first types of technology or software that I'm going to be discussing. The next one is artificial intelligence. So I took this definition from Google. Basically, what it is that artificial intelligence is the ability of giving machines to be able to do human tasks that normally require human intelligence. So it's the ability for a machine to do a task that normally a human would do, but now a machine can do as well, and it can replicate it, sometimes in a more efficient way, and it can take a shorter amount of time. So it's really helpful across many different industries. This can be pretty cool, but then it's a bit weird because sometimes when you see machines doing human tasks, it can be a little bit jarring almost, because you realize how far technology has come and how much it's developed, and the ability for a computer to be able to do something that you only thought you yourself could do, or you as a human could do. I don't know, I think it's just a weird concept to wrap your head around. Obviously, there's a lot of different types of things that use the whole idea of artificial intelligence. You have robots, whether it be through smart home, the robot vacuum cleaner Roomba. It can be in manufacturing. A lot of factories now employ quote-unquote robots, which use artificial intelligence to produce products. It can be humanoid, you can literally have a talking robot, and it's just employing artificial intelligence technology in order to do certain humane things. You can also have stuff like emotech, which is essentially stuff like Alexa and Siri and Google Home. That also requires artificial intelligence. Yeah. You can also have like in software, so that's more of like I would say the hardware side of AI. You can also have like AI built into software, like let's say a financial advising app, a smart driving car. You also have Nest, which is a thermostat that anyone can use to help them with their heating or cooling needs. So yeah, artificial intelligence is the type of software that just touches a lot of different industries and it can impact it in a lot of different ways. And yeah, AI just uses algorithms to take problems and find solutions to them that only once you thought could be done by a person. And obviously, there's advantages and disadvantages to this one as well. The first advantage is that it makes life easier and more efficient because the point of artificial intelligence is that uh, things that do use artificial intelligence, they can usually do a lot of they can do a lot of actions that are quite repetitive, and it's just they can do things that are done over and over and over again. It doesn't get tired, it doesn't really take breaks, and there's no real emotional connection to it because it is a piece of machinery. So yeah, I mean, that's one of the advantages, is that it makes a lot of tasks more efficient and in less time. And so obviously saves money for menial tasks, especially in a lot of different types of companies. It can also be used as a decision maker, obviously based on the way it's programmed. So yeah, there's quite a lot of different advantages to it. It just makes your life a lot, or like the machines that use AI can make your life a lot easier from day to day. Some of the disadvantages is that it is expensive to create. So depending on the type of technology or like where it's being used and where AI is being implemented, it can get quite expensive, which is why I don't think we've seen super much, like a lot of advancement of AI, just because it is expensive to make. Another thing is that a lot of people are afraid that AI is replacing certain jobs for humans and leading to unemployment. And that's just kind of a given. Like, if you're going to have a machine, like, start building cars, right? It's going to replace the people that used to work in the factories and actually build the cars. And we've been seeing that for quite a while, like the Industrial Revolution. When that happened and you had machines coming in, people who used to work in the factories were no longer needed. So, one thing about AI is that it's constantly changing the workplace. As more machines are being developed that can do more complex tasks, it's taking away from other jobs that humans could do. And that's just one of the disadvantages that comes with using something like AI. Okay, so the next type of technology that I'm going to discuss is more on the hardware side. It's personal technology. So when I say personal, I mean things like phone, computers, televisions, iPads, any device that belongs to a human that they can use almost as a staple in their everyday lives. It's more belong to us rather than a society. So for example, like a phone, almost everyone has a phone these days. Like you kind of need it. It's kind of a staple to be able to survive and to be able to not really necessarily to be able to survive, but to be able to communicate, to be able to do a lot of things. Like, we all rely on our phones and our computers. I cannot imagine living life without a computer or a phone or even a television. And I know that used to be the case, obviously, like a long time ago. But based on where I've grown up and based on, the environment that I've been raised in, I've constantly been surrounded by these types of things. So I just can't imagine my life without them. And honestly, I'm super grateful that I having access to this type of technology, having access to a phone or a computer usually at my hand's reach, is something that I'm forever grateful for, because I know a lot of people don't have that advantage. But yeah, I mean, it's just like, it's weird because I've grown up around it so much that I just feel like, what would life be like without it, like for a long term. And yeah, so it's just anything that's personal. I mean, there's almost like 6.8 billion mobile users around the world. 50% of business households own a computer worldwide. So, personal technology is something that's evolving, and more people are getting access to it, and more people are being able to use it in their everyday lives. So yeah, I mean, television has given rise to the entertainment industry, which is very extensive. Phones have obviously allowed us to communicate in ways that we would not been able to. And obviously phones have been around for a really long time, and it's like pretty incredible to see from what they've started out as to where they've came now. Like from what I've seen in history, they used to be like these big bulky devices, and you could have to like connect to an operator, and then that operator would connect to you, and it was like a really huge process. And then now it's just I call someone, and they can automatically pick up, and I can just have like an hour conversation with them, and it doesn't really affect. So it's just cool to see how much it's evolved. Same thing with computers. You used to have, in order to run a computer, it would usually have to fill up a whole entire room, and now we use computers that are super small, just fit on our desk, even in our hands. I feel like sometimes a phone is even like a computer because it's, it has a lot of different capabilities. So it's just really interesting to see how much this type of personal technology has evolved over 100 years. I think people who back then used to live in a world where computers would literally fill up your room possibly couldn't imagine that soon people could just bring these huge computers. They would be fitting onto like a really small motherboard essentially, and you could just use it sitting in the comfort of your house. So it's just really interesting and like really extensive to see how much personal technology has evolved throughout the world. Obviously there's a lot of advantages to it. It allows me and people all across the world to do their work, because for most people now their work is online, runs applications. You can learn literally anything from the internet, call and text, stay in touch. It provides the hardware to run the software, and this is where I'm going to get into it now. Personal technology is what I consider the hardware, so I mean the computer, and you need this hardware to run the software, which is like, the work that we do, like Google, if you're using Google, if you use Microsoft. They obviously the idea of a computer is that it provides the hardware, or the idea of a phone, to run whatever you want, which is the software. And it's the software that is obviously advantage. That is what we need to use. We obviously use the more software side of it, but without the hardware, you wouldn't have the existence of the software. So I think both of them work hand in hand, and both of them do need to be working and functional in order for the device to work 100% most of the time. So yeah, I mean, there's just a lot, and the software is needed just as much as the hardware, and the hardware needs the software just as much, and they would just both go in tandem and hand in hand. Obviously, the disadvantages to personal technology is you do have, obviously, that issue of privacy and hacking. I just think when it comes to the issue of privacy and hacking, you just have to know good computer ethics. You just have to know how to use privacy and how to keep your information private. I think it just comes down to being educated in the way of how to best keep your information protected. So for example, using long passwords. Don't click on sketchy sites. If an email comes from a sketchy email address, don't click on it, don't reply to it. And yeah, it just comes to identifying, possible things that could lead to an obstruction in privacy. It's just having the knowledge about that is usually the best to solve. You can't always be 100% of the time right, but you can try your best. Another thing I feel like that's a disadvantage is that you're constantly just sitting all the time in front of it, so you don't actually get you don't feel like you're doing anything because everything is online, so there's nothing like physical in front of you. I think that can sometimes mess with my personal mind. Obviously, it's a lot of screen time. You get headaches. It's bad for your eyes. You can get back pain from sitting, so sometimes it can be detrimental to your own health. But again, I think it's just about that balance of being able to balance being on a screen as well as doing something outside of that as well. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it with personal technology. The last type of technology that I'm going to discuss is the Internet of Things. So the Internet of Things, and I took this from a article on Wired, and it's called, so I took this from a article on Wired, and it's called "What is the Internet of Things Explained?" So what they say is that in the broadest sense, the term IoT, or Internet of Things, encompasses everything connected to the internet, but is increasingly being used to define objects that quote-unquote talk to each other. So anything that fits under Internet of Things are simple sensors to smartphones and wearables. It's just when everything is connected using the internet that pretty much defines the Internet of Things. It's honestly such a broad concept and sometimes hard to understand. When I was in 9th grade, I had to do a debate case on the Internet of Things because I did do speech and debate, and even though I did do extensive research into what it is and what really counts, it's still kind of hard to understand because there's a lot of things that could qualify as Internet of Things. and it's so broad that it's sometimes hard to understand, but it's simply, I think, everything that interacts with each other and is just connected to using the internet. So I'm going to talk about a couple of examples, and these are examples of companies that I've actually pulled that employ Internet of Things from an article. And so I'm just going to be discussing these companies and what exactly they do. So, for example, the first one that I'm going to discuss is, I really hope I'm not butchering the company's name, but it's Insteon. Yeah, I'm going to say it's Insteon. They're located in Los Angeles, California. So Insteon allows you to control the lighting in appliances. It allows you to monitor windows, door, water leaks, smoke, and a lot more via sensors. So inside of your own house, using this application will allow you to, let's say you're on vacation and you're wondering about what is the status of your window, or like you're just wondering about the status of your door. So you can use Insteon and their products to kind of sort of monitor that. And it does require the Internet of Things, because I'm pretty sure the way it works is that the sensors are connected to your phone. And so essentially you are using the internet to be able to check on it and communicate and monitor your house. So that is one example. Another one is Anevo. This company is located in Boston, Massachusetts, and they're using IoT enabled sensors to basically manage waste and recycling services for a variety of industries such as retail or technology. So they basically have sensors that obviously help companies with their recycling and how well they're doing it, and just helping and manage waste. So this is obviously really good for companies who are looking back on how they can cut out their waste, on how they can better manage their resources. I think this would be a great application to use. And yeah, another company that I'm going to be talking about is Simply Safe. This is also located in Boston, Massachusetts. It makes wireless and cellular home security systems. And so obviously this does use the internet because, the app uses AI, as well as, I'm pretty sure, the whole concept of the internet in order to monitor your house and to make sure, your house is staying safe. It's safe whether you're inside the house or outside. And these security systems are also disaster ready. They're protected against power outages, which is obviously really helpful. And yeah, so there's a lot of different things where Internet of Things can be used. It can be used in something like recycling, to security, to helping manage your home and, its devices. And it's also being used in healthcare as well. So yeah, the Internet of Things is pretty extensive as to where it can be used and what. So, like I said, that's one of its biggest advantages. Obviously, a disadvantage of it, and it comes with quite a lot of different types of technology, is privacy. But yeah, that's pretty much it. This episode has gotten quite long. It's more than 30 minutes, but I still hope that you enjoyed this episode and learned something about technology from it. I hope you enjoyed this kind of new style. And I really enjoyed this episode because I got the opportunity to talk about something that I like studying about, and that is technology and its impact. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and see you next week for another one. Make sure to subscribe, review, rate this podcast wherever you're listening to it, whether it be on Apple, Google, Spotify. Just show your support, and thank you for taking up the time of your day to listen to my podcast. And yeah, that's all I have to say. I hope you are doing well, and see you next week for another one. Bye.